Hi, it's Buzz Kanter from American Iron Magazine, AIMAG.com. And I'm here with my old friend Butch Baer to talk about his old Indian motorcycle racer. It's a 1937, for the most part, Sports Scout. And Butch was Mr. Indian, continues to be Mr. Indian, as was his dad, Fritzy Baer. So he's here today to talk about the bike. Let's have a look at it. Hey Butch, how are you?
Oh, not too bad today for an old man.
An old man.
Feeling pretty good.
Excellent. And you're going to tell us about this bike. Now, how long ago did you start building this bike?
I got this frame from Doc Batzlier at the Mid-Ohio races, probably back in about 1987, 1988. So I purchased the frame complete with the wheels still on it, and that's about it.
And this is not your first race bike you've built?
No, at the time I was racing my Indian big base.
Uh-huh.
And vintage racing.
And when did you start racing Indians?
Well, my dad's been Indian all his life, and of course we were brought home from the hospital on an Indian, so I guess for all my life.
Okay.
My first bike was 11 years old. They taught me how to ride in the basement of the Indian factory. And my dad was the dealer in the basement of the Indian factory. And so that's kind of where I grew up through my young teenage years and earlier. So I had my first exhibition Hillclimb in 1938 when I was 11 years old, little junior scout. I made it about halfway up the hill.
Junior Scout was the bike, not you?
Yeah, little junior scout.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Indian Junior Scout, little small 30-50 side valve. Probably put out, I don't know, 7 horsepower.
Wonderful. And you've been hooked on them ever since?
Oh yes, oh yeah. All my life has been Indian.
Okay, well let's walk around this one. Tell us a little bit about it. So
this is what you might call a bitza. This is made up of pieces of different years. The original frame setup, the midsection of the frame is probably a 1940 Sports Scout.
Okay, and the frame doesn't go all the way down like traditional new ones?
No, it just comes down to 2 ends, and the engine hangs on it.
Uh-huh. So the engine is really a structural part of the chassis? It connects the frame together?
Not really.
No?
Not really. It does hold the rear end of the frame into a mess.
Yes. And obviously this is a rigid, so there's no issues with suspension.
Oh yeah, this is a rigid rear end.
Uh-huh.
No give to it.
Okay, and the ignition here, you got a great big magneto. What's the story with this?
Well, this is a 1940-ish magneto.
Uh-huh.
And they continued this magneto all the way up until they built the 50 special racing motorcycles in 1948.
Okay, and the purpose of the magneto is that you don't need a battery, you don't need a charging system, you don't, you know.
It puts out a stronger spark. The faster you spin it, the stronger the spark gets.
Uh-huh.
And they work very well because you don't have so many complicated parts. They're all together in one.
Uh-huh.
There's no battery, there's no a separate coil, there's no...
And also, I guess, there's no pull on the motor. They don't have to spin anything to create a charging system. Is that true, or maybe not?
Well, it spins within itself.
The magneto does, but I mean, it's not spinning anything for a generator. It doesn't have to create a generator.
Oh, no, we're not creating no juice with it. No,
okay.
None whatsoever.
Now, tell me about this bar. You have a bar here from the head that goes all the way down. You have your foot peg.
I've got a foot peg. I've got a foot shaft coming through here.
Uh-huh.
And that's what this bolt is. And this is where the normal, and there's one little support bracket for it.
Okay.
Well, it's not much of a support bracket. The bracket is more or less to hold the exhaust pipe up.
Yes.
So to keep this shaft from bending, I put in a brace.
Okay. And it's a kicker, obviously, and this is a 3-speed?
Oh, yeah. This is a kickstart 3-speed transmission.
Okay. And the seat. Tell me about the seat. It's someone's modified this.
Well, I cut the middle out of it to make it narrower.
Because it's more comfortable,
well,
or?
It was more comfortable for me anyway.
Yes.
And I normally had it mounted lower, and I didn't use a pillion most of the time. But for this particular racer, I did use the pillion. I'm getting older.
We're all getting older,
just
Butch.
slide onto the back fender, you know, and lay down and bury my face into the tank.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, and on this one you have a right throttle.
Yeah. The right throttle came along from dirt track racing. When you're dirt track racing and you're sitting on a cycle and you go in a turn and you broad slide, well, this hand is way far out there somewhere. And if you're in a full broad slide, that's really a long reach.
Yeah.
So this is right in your lap.
Okay. And with the right throttle, obviously it's a left shifter. So, and you've got
And I did a little something special on this particular cycle.
Yeah, tell us about that, the lockout.
I got into vintage racing, which was a lot of road racing. Mid-Ohio, Road Atlanta, tracks like this, Road America, and this is a lot of turns, left and right hand turns, so that you're using per lap, you're going back to second to high, back to second to high, I don't know how many times. In an Indian transmission versus a Harley shift lever has a gate, and you can push to a stop in the gate.
Right.
So I built up a little special rig on this that lets me control the shift lever for that second gear, to find that second gear and not miss it.
So it's a lockout.
So I've locked it so that when you put this thing up in low gear, you can push straight down to lock, and it locks. There's second gear. It can't go any further. Now to get it into high, you push this lever down, and now you can go down into high.
You might be in high already.
I might be in high already.
And then that, the lock is, I think you can get third and second with it there.
There's low.
There you go.
And then when you go in,
right
by
there you
second,
go.
Go by second.
You're too aggressive. You're too excited sitting on your old racer again.
You better look into that and see what happens.
Okay, we'll figure it out. But I think basically,
it's just,
I think you can get second and third with the lockout down, but you can't get into neutral or first.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's obviously a foot, and it is a foot clutch.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
There's low. There's second. Down,
Okay.
There's high. There's second.
Okay.
High, second.
And then the lockout stops it from going past second, which would be a bad thing to do on a racetrack under speed.
And that worked out pretty nice.
Okay. And then
the only time you use low gear is to get off the starting line.
Yep. And this here is a steering damper. It's a modern steering damper.
Yes, instead of the old friction type plates, I discarded those and put it in a modern hydraulic. It works very, very nice.
Okay. What else? What did you do? Did you do some trick stuff to the engine? Did you do anything with the top end or with the flywheels?
Internally, over the years, I experimented with all sorts of things. I started all the way down with the flywheels. Of course, the flywheels have been lightened, so I get quicker acceleration. They accelerate faster. And when you balance a set of wheels, you drill all these cross holes in the wheel to get the balance correct.
Yes.
Well, all these cross holes accumulate crud and mixture and whatnot. So on the outer surface of the flywheel, I drilled in little drain holes. So the centrifugal force cleans these holes out at all times.
It's like like slingers. Okay.
And of course, I put in a sight vision hole in here, so you can see the flywheel. On the flywheel, I have marks for timing the engine. So 5/8 before top dead center, and for both cylinders. So a red line will show up for the rear.
Yes.
A white line will show up for the front.
Okay.
So you know where it's supposed to fire when you adjust the magneto.
All right. Now, go ahead.
One of the new laws of vintage racing just now came out this past year, so that now you have to have a drip catch pan. So
someone told me they're diapers for these old bikes that are leaking. What do you think?
Well,
diapers for the leakers?
They needed them mostly for the Harleys. But they said, well, if we have to make the Harley owners do it, let's make the Indian owners have to do it too.
Okay.
So that's how that came about.
All right, and that's what this is on the bottom, the drip pan that you guys, you made a drip pan there.
So we made it so it's nice and easy on and off to change the absorbent material that's laying in it.
Okay. And then the last thing I noted over here is you have a catch can, the little bottle there.
You're not allowed to drop any oil on the track whatsoever. So the engine breather comes into this tank and catches whatever oil it normally squirts out to keep your chain oiled or something like that. You catch it in a catch bottle.
And that's by Tech. And then
Yeah.
And then we have some safety wire for people who don't know. An example of safety wire is here.
You have to, all the axle nuts and all the adjusting screws for the wheels have to be safety wired. All of the oil lines, whether it's just a breather line or the main feed lines or the return lines, they all have to be safety wired.
Yes. Interesting.
So several other things have to be safety wired too, but
and then tell me about these front brakes. They're kind of trick looking. They're all drilled out.
Well, I bought this bike from a road racer, and he had been using it for road racing. You called Doc Batzler
a road racer?
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm kidding. He's a great guy.
He wanted more cooling in the brake, apparently.
Yes.
So he drilled all these holes in, and apparently, of course, you got rid of another what? Almost half a pound, probably.
Yeah, and it's and I'd say it's unsprung weight, except I don't think that really works on a girder.
Somebody told me once that 7 pounds equals 1 horsepower.
Okay.
So that's an interesting fact.
Okay.
Try to get rid of 7 pounds.
Yeah, or pick up a horse. All right. Well, I'd love to hear it run. If you could start it, that'd be great. If not, I know your grandson Mike is here.
I'll give it one kick.
And I guess he's been your tuner for a while.
I'll give it to my grandson.
Okay.
I'm 87 years old now.
Okay.
I'm not a kid anymore. I must have had it just right in front when you came home, Mike.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's have Mike give it a shot. It's not for lack of effort, right, Butch?
We'll have to do that. That's a nice effort for an old man.
Yeah. And there you go, a 1937 Indian Sport Scout Racer. And how did you kill it?
The motor on a test block would probably produce approximately 40 horsepower.
You think? Mm-hmm. That's at the crank or at the wheel?
That's at the output sprocket.
Yes? Excellent. And what you killed it by hitting the
little red button right here that shorts out the magneto.
Okay.
And of course you short out the magneto and the engine stops.
Absolutely. Well, folks, there you have it. This is Buzz Kanter with Butch Baer, his grandson Mike Baer, who did a lot of the wrenching on this bike under Butch's supervision, and me, Buzz Kanter, from American Iron Magazine. Also, let's put in a plug for Motorcyclist Post, which is the magazine that Butch and his family bought and are now publishing. Is there a website for him? Motorcyclist Post?
Yeah. A centuryofmotorcycling.com.
A centuryofmotorcycling.com.
And you get hold of ACOM Publishing.
ACOM Publishing. Okay.
We also produce the Indian News. We put out 2 issues a year, and what it contains, of course, is a lot of Indian history. We go back each year. We go back 100 years, 110 years, 100 years, 90 years, 80 years, 70 years, 6 years, and we tell you all about Indian and everything to do with Indian.
And how do they find out or order that?
Same thing. A centuryofmotorcycling.com.
A centuryofmotorcycling.com.
I put out 2 huge books. That was the title of the 2 books.
I've got them both. I'm proud of them.
About the history of my family, of Fritzy Baer and Pop Armstrong and their families.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Butch. And thank you, Mike.
No problem.